They just opened the steel doors for a routine inspection, but were terrified by the horrifying things inside the cargo hold. The sheriff didn't hesitate for a second and immediately ordered his men to wave the convoy through, afraid that any delay could get everyone killed on the spot. Even soldiers from the Ministry of Defense felt an unprecedented sense of dread upon hearing about it. The defense minister immediately ordered all checkpoints opened without any resistance until the entire convoy had cleared customs. Yet the sheriff's fear still hadn't subsided at all. There were no terrifying monsters in those cargo holds. Every item inside was simply stamped with a special seal. That seal belonged to a mysterious organization called Khansaar, located in the mountains of northwestern India. The terrain made it easy to defend and hard to attack. Even the previously undefeated British had gained no advantage when they came to conquer it. Khansaar was the only territory in all of India that was never occupied. After India gained independence in the 20th century, the king of Khansaar built tall and sturdy walls around his domain and assembled one of the most powerful armed forces in the world. To avoid invasion, Indian politicians were forced to sign a series of unequal treaties with Khansaar. Indian law did not apply within Khansaar, yet every rule Khansaar set applied throughout India. This allowed Khansaar's lords to freely operate gambling, drugs, and other businesses anywhere in India without any legal consequences. On top of that, India was required to hand over 80% of its annual GDP to the king of Khansaar. But today, someone had dared to rob this fearsome organization. The moment the convoy passed through the final checkpoint, a missile was suddenly fired from the mountaintop. Several trucks were instantly blown over. The escort team immediately grabbed their weapons and prepared to fight back. At the same time, dozens of Gatling guns on the hillside were activated simultaneously. A fierce gunfight quickly broke out between both sides. Due to the disadvantageous terrain, the unprepared escort suffered heavy casualties. Then a pickup truck came charging into the crowd. The team members quickly turned their guns toward the vehicle. A man stepped out, and using only an M4 assault rifle, he drove the gunman back one after another. His close combat skills were equally formidable. The knife in his hand cut through the fighters as if they were nothing, leaving them powerless to fight back. On the verge of defeat, the escort captain quickly grabbed a sniper rifle and prepared to ambush the man. But when he looked through the scope and saw the tattoo on the man's arm, he was so frightened that he dropped his weapon on the spot. The surveillance cameras on the trucks had been transmitting the scene back to Khansaar. Once the lords got a clear look at the man's face, they were all shaken. The man's name was Jimmy, once Khansaar's undefeated war god, and the very person who had created that special seal. Tired of the constant fighting and killing, he had left Khansaar with his mother 7 years ago and settled into a peaceful life. But the prince, in order to find him, had ordered his girlfriend kidnapped and treated her like cargo, stamping her with that same seal. That was the reason Jimmy went on a killing spree. However, he quickly forgave the prince, as the two had grown up together as friends. Years ago, a lord had set his eyes on Jimmy's mother and sent men to kill Jimmy's entire family in order to possess her. Just as his mother was about to be violated, the prince appeared. But he was still just a child, and the lord paid him no attention. To save Jimmy's mother, the prince, without hesitation, removed the largest bracelet on his wrist and threw it to the lord. Receiving a bracelet signified receiving a piece of territory. The lord was overjoyed. This territory was larger than all his other lands combined. He took it and left with his men, and that was how the mother and son were saved. Now, with the king away on business, several factions within Khansaar were preparing to rebel. To win the fight, they had even brought in elite forces from various countries. But the prince had angered the king deeply by giving away the bracelet without permission back then. Losing the bracelet meant losing all the businesses, resources, and everything else tied to that territory. So the king stopped relying on the prince, leaving him with no real power for 20 years. He had no army at his disposal whatsoever, only a few brothers who had gone through life and death together with him, and Jimmy was one of them. With the conflict drawing closer, the prince had no choice but to use this dishonorable method to force Jimmy to show himself. He never had any intention of harming Jimmy's girlfriend. In the end, after the prince's repeated requests, Jimmy agreed to return and take part in the fight. But on the way back, they came across a deeply eerie village. Women there had no status whatsoever, and even young girls could be seized and forced into marriage.